Welcome to the Zenith and Balance podcast. I'm your host, Tammy Vu, and today we have a very special guest joining us today. Let's give a huge round of applause to my Cowtown coach for motivating her team to run, uh, Penny Wilbank.
Hi, Tammy. How are you?
Doing good. Well, I'm glad you're
Good.
here. So, Penny is not just a marathon runner, she's also a coach for Cowtown organization. Our discussion today revolves around fascinating topics called the 50 States and 50 Stories, the intersections of running and mental wellness. So, to kick things off, let's dive into the first question. Why did you start running and what initially drew you to the idea of completing marathons in all 50 states?
Well, thank you for asking, Tammy, and thank you for having me tonight. I'm really glad that you invited me to come be on your show tonight. It's actually a little bit of a story, but I'll try to give the Cliff Notes version. So, I've always been an athlete. I've played soccer. I ran track in junior high and high school. Even when I got into college, I played women and girls and co-ed and indoor and outdoor soccer. So, I was always on an athletic team of some kind. Well, in my mid 30s, I decided to go back and get my college degree. And after I graduated, the morning of my commencement ceremony, I looked in the mirror and I had gained about 40 pounds. And I looked at myself and I was like, wow, you really look like crud. Although I said a little bit more explicit than that. And so I went, and this was during the times that Google was starting to be a big thing. So that tells you kind of how old I am. And I went and Googled. My very first ever Google search was solo sports. And a training seminar at a local running company in Fort Worth came up. And I thought, okay, well, I won't play soccer anymore because I didn't really want to be part of a team anymore. I didn't want to depend on other people, and I didn't want to have a schedule that was given to me. I wanted my own schedule, which is one of the benefits of running is that you can set your own schedule and it's your race, your pace. So I went to the meeting and I immediately got somehow roped in, hooked into running a half marathon. And I ran half marathons for 13 years. And I swore up and down I would never, ever, ever run a full marathon. I had no desire. It's a lot more training. I always used to laugh that I could get from the couch to the finish line with no training whatsoever because it's much easier to do a half marathon. And in 2008, a group of friends had invited me to go to the Washington downhill marathon, the Jack and Jill marathon. And when I was getting ready to sign up, I had booked my air, I had booked my hotel, I had booked my rent car. And I was like, okay, now we got to sit down and sign up for the race. And when I went to the website, what I noticed was different than the marathons and the races here in Texas was this race, the half marathon started at the halfway point and the marathon had a 3 mile tunnel that you had to run with a light on your head and a flashlight at the beginning. And I looked at that and I said, whoa, 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 wait a minute. That sounds super cool to me. I mean, here I had run halves for 13 years and just running through a tunnel for whatever reason sounded like something interesting and fun. So I got to thinking and I said, I'm going to spend all this money, car, hotel, airfare, and I'm going to have to wait 2 to 3 hours for all my friends to finish their full when I'm doing a half. I might as well just do the full with them. And I will tell you, Tammy, in Fort Worth, if you knew me back then, everybody was like, wait, what? You're running a full? It was like national news. Penny's running a full. Penny's running a full. And so I trained for a full. And I want to thank a coach that I had, Mario, that Mario, he was my coach. And trained with me till the day I ran my first full marathon in June of 2000. It was July of 2018. And I will say that leads into the next question, how I got started running the 50 states. I like to joke that was state one because that was my first full marathon in the state of Washington. And so when I got back, I had so much fun. I ran a marathon in Texas, ran one in Oklahoma, and then another group of friends invited me to Oregon. And so that was my fourth state. And one day I proclaimed on the trails in Fort Worth, I'm already 4 states in, only 46 more to go. And that's how I got started. Literally out the gate, marathon one.
Well, that's truly inspiring. So I guess your ambition to complete the marathons in all 50 states speaks volume about your dedications. Uh, I think that that personal connections, like having a dedicated coach and having a Cowtown club or any kind of running club to motivate you, really enhance your running experience. So, moving on, in what ways has running contributed to your mental well-being, and how do you incorporate mindfulness into your training?
That is a very good question because people ask me how I do it. I tell everyone that it keeps me positive. I always have to say, I can do this, I can do this. And it's really set the precedence for anything in my life because I've learned if I can do all these marathons, then you really can do anything that you put your mind to because running a marathon is literally mind over matter. And one of the things that it actually has done, it helps me eat right. It helps me with my fitness. Um, and it has to help me, it helps me be there for myself, and it helps me achieve my personal goals and my business goals and any kind of goals that I have. So it's really been very beneficial in my life. It's made me much more disciplined than I ever thought I was, and I already thought I was disciplined enough. So it's really been an inspiration to me to make me more disciplined and positive in my life.
Well, that is a very positive perspective right there. Mind over matters. It just reminds us that running can be both a physical as well as a mental exercise. So many runners as well as at, athletes talk about mind over matter, which is an important strategy. So it's all about building a strong mindset. You know, I'm going to ask you the next question. As a coach, what psychological strategies do you emphasize to help your clients stay motivated and resilient during training?
I tell them the number one thing they need to know is they just need to stick with it. Don't give up. It's going to be hard. And the famous phrase that Mario taught me is forward is a pace. You have to continually always be moving forward. So, not giving up, moving forward, and sticking with it is the biggest and best advice that I can give to any new marathoner out there.
Well, I appreciate your focus on building a strong community for your team, for the runners. Community support, such as your coach, can be a game changer in achieving personal goals. And for that, I would like to move on to the next one, which is speaking of challenges. Can you share a significant challenge you faced during your marathon journey and how you overcame it?
Sure. I will have to say, I probably was one of the lucky ones that I really didn't have any significant challenges during my journey doing the 50 states. In fact, I have to say, I was probably very blessed. I was able to do 22 of the 50 states over COVID when I was catching cheap airfares, cheap hotels. Tiny races were going, the big majors were not, but, we were finding small races here and there in remote areas that were going. So I was able to actually accomplish a lot. But I guess when you say the biggest challenge I had was actually completing the entire 50 states. I had been warned early in the journey that when you get into the 30s, that is where it becomes very hard. That is where the highest quit rate is among all the people that are trying to accomplish the 50 states because they're over the hump of the 25. It's real exciting getting to 25 and you're there. So everybody gets all, ooh, I'm halfway there, but you're not to the 50s yet. And so the 30s, I will say for me, it became very much of a mind game to keep pressing on and saying, okay, I've got to get into the 40s. Because once you get into the 40s, that's where you feel like you're all downhill. And that's the advice I give to every new person that's all excited about running their 50 states. I tell them, keep that excitement. You've got to remember that when you get in your 30s, that's where the challenges begin.
That's true. Well, thank you for sharing that as well too. So, I guess age is also playing an important factor in running. However, perseverance is the key in running as well as in life, right? So, lastly, what key piece of advice would you give to someone who is just starting their running journey, and particularly regarding the mental aspect of the sport?
I would tell them the biggest thing is to learn to be a planner and take this training seriously and put your training and your workouts on your calendar like doctor's appointments.
Mhm.
So I sit down every weekend and I plan out the next week. When am I going to go? I do two strength classes a week at the YMCA. I put those on my calendar. When am I going to run my 3 miles, my 5 miles? And I know the long run is every Saturday. If I can't do it on Saturday, when am I going to do a long run that week? So the biggest thing I tell everybody when they're in the marathon mode or looking to do their first marathon or even early in the game is you've got to learn to plan. You've got to learn to take it serious and commit to it. And another thing is just press on, just keep pressing through it. Just take it week by week. And the same thing I said earlier, don't give up, stay disciplined, and just don't give up because that race day will be here and you'll be either glad that you stuck with your training or you'll be going, oh man, I wish I had done X or I had done X. But I do take every marathon for me personally. I tell everybody I've done 71 marathons and my goal is to go to 100 for right now. And I think I've learned something on every single marathon that I've run. And I get tickled at myself. I tell myself, okay, next marathon I'm going to eat better, and I already diet and I go to a nutritionist and I try to keep healthy, and I tell myself, okay, I'm going to work out more, I'm going to run more, I'm going to do this more, and I don't always do it, but I am disciplined at staying very trained up and having a base. So for new marathoners, I tell everybody it's just literally incorporating the lifestyle and embracing it and standing up to your friends that say, hey, let's go do this on a Saturday morning. And you have to say, no, I've got my long run to do. Can I join you guys later? So I've learned to say no to a lot of people.
Thank you for sharing that as well too. So before we end the podcast, uh do you have uh just any kind of information you would like to share to our audience?
I tell everybody running the 50 marathons in all 50 states was one of the most wonderful things I've ever done. It gave me opportunity to see parts of the country of our United States. And I didn't vacation. I would pop in and I would pop out. And I joked that my vacation was the 26 miles and whatever I could see on that particular route is what I saw of that state. So I tried to be meticulous in where I chose to run. I tried to find meaning behind the marathon. I really took it very serious as to strategize which marathon I did, but I highly recommend it. I will say it's expensive, which is why I say I caught a lot of cheap flats and cheap airfare, and I tried to be economical. It also taught me to learn to get along with people because I roomed with complete strangers that we would share Airbnbs. And you just have to learn very quickly how to adapt to other people, but we all know we're there for the same goal. So I think that's the bond that everybody brings to this. And people are like, oh, are you not scared of, meeting a stranger? And like, no, there's a certain runner bond that we have that that the people are good people. Now, I have heard a couple of little stories here and there because our world is not perfect. But for me, I've made wonderful friends. And it became a joke that I was collecting friends in all 50 states as well, too, because I tried to meet new friends on every marathon, or it just happened, I guess you could say. But it's one of the best things. I even use it on job interviews. I tell them that that's how dedicated and disciplined that I am, that I was able to complete that while working a full-time job. And my next goal is to get to 100. And so I hope they don't mind that I take a Friday or a Monday off to go pop in and pop out to do a quick marathon. So, and they either get it and love it or they don't and they pass me by. So to me,
Absolutely.
if they don't want to get into my running, then I don't need them either. So
Definitely agree with you on that. So, Penny, thank you very much for sharing your challenges as well as your insights today. Your journey and experience serve a powerful reminder of the connection between running and mental wellness. Thus, it's a clear, like it's basically a clear cut that both are not just physical activities, but deeply enriching experiences that you come across, like that you have to faces going through all 50 states. Yep. So thank you to our listener for tuning in today, for tuning into this episode of the Zenith and Balance podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next time for more inspiring conversation. Until then, keep running towards your dream, one step at a time.